I'm Montri with the Michigan State University Department of Horticulture and Center for Regional Food Systems, and we're here today at 10 Hens Farm to talk about internal covers in the winter in hoop houses. In northern areas, we need to use these to get production from December through March. If we don't, we tend to get frosted out, we tend to lose our crops, and we tend to not to be able to harvest in the coldest, darkest parts of winter. There are a number of different ways to set up the internal cover. We'll look at one way here, and we'll talk about a couple different ways as well. So in this one, what we have is 4 runs of galvanized wire that run end to end in the hoop house. It usually comes in packages like this. It's a 1/4 mile long, 17 gauge. It's usually available at fencing supply stores or where you can buy materials for horses. It costs about $13 to $15 for a 1/4 mile. What we have in this house are 4 runs of that wire running end to end. It's tied into the end wall at the far end. At this end, it's tied into 2 posts on the inside too. The reason that that's the case is that this house has sliding doors on it, and we couldn't tie these 2 into the end walls or else the doors wouldn't open. So what we have are these wires, again, end to end, and then we have this fabric that's draped over the top of them. It's about 40 feet wide this way and about 100 feet long end to end. We've gone ahead and cut it in half in the middle to make it easier to open and close it. So here's the wire strainer on the close end. You can see there's just a hole drilled through the metal end wall. You could also drill it through the wooden end wall. Bolts put through, and then the wire strainer is attached to that with a nut on each side. And then to tighten it down, go ahead and feed the wire in, and there's kind of 2 different tools to use. One is this tool, which is designed for tightening these. You can see it has little circles here that fit on to the circles here. This pin locks into those, and then to tighten it, just go like this. You want to make sure that you keep your hands and face out of the way. You just tighten it down. If it feels like it's tight enough, you don't want to over tighten it or snap it. You can always tighten it more if it sags over time. The other end of this, depending on what type of wire strainer you have, you can see these are circle. We also have some that are square. So this is a design for that, where it would just fit on the end and then it would tighten down. The other option is if you lose this or if you misplace it or if you don't feel like buying one of these, you can also do it with a vice grip. And the vice grip works okay for the circle ones. You need to really clamp it on there and then twist it. It works great for the square ones where you can just clip that in there like that and then crank it and close it down. So both the vice grip or the actual wire strainer tool work really well. So the end pieces in this setup are different than the top piece. So the end pieces go on and they just stay in place. It's just about a 4 foot tall section. You can see here's the top piece. The end piece connects on one side. We bring it underneath the wire, wrap it up like that, put a clothespin on, slide it forward a little, and then cover it up. That forms a nice seal there, and it also makes it so that we don't have to make the top piece a slit in it to come down around this wire to seal off the end. There are a number of different weights of this fabric, spun polypropylene, that you can purchase. This is 1 ounce per square yard. It's sold by the square yard or by the amount of light that transmits through it. So this is so it transmits 70% of light, but the weight is 1 ounce per square yard. You can go as light as a 1/2 ounce per square yard. We tend to like this a little bit heavier, mostly because it's more durable. With the lighter weight one, we tend to tear it and really only get 1 season's use out of it, maybe 2. With this heavier, we get much more use, much more longevity, and don't have tear holes in it from pulling it open and closed throughout the season. So the reason we have this is one large cover is that we can think of it like a mitten as opposed to a glove, which would be similar to when we cover individual beds. That being said, it's really important to know that we can cover individual beds or have a large covering like this and still grow through the winter. It's a management choice. But when we think about heat and retaining heat, if we think about a mitten like this, we have a lot less surface area to lose heat from once we build up heat underneath here. If we think about a glove, this would be more covering individual beds. We have all this additional surface area that we're losing heat from as it cools off into the nighttime. So another option to cover with inside is greenhouse grade polyethylene or greenhouse plastic. It runs a little bit warmer than the row cover material, but takes more management. So the row cover material is breathable. If you're not going to be on your farm or you're not going to be around all the time to open it when it gets sunny out, but with plastic, you have to be able to be on farm or have someone else be on the farm to be able to open it on days or times of the day when it gets sunny. Otherwise, it will get too warm underneath there, too humid underneath there, and you'll end up with too much disease pressure and more fungal growth than you will with the row cover, which is breathable. So the way that we hold these on are simply clothespins on the two outer edges, or two outer strings. And you can see here are the two layers that are split in the middle. The reason we keep it split in the middle is that we used to have one big piece, but when we get a lot of condensation, moisture on the row cover, when we tried to push it 100 feet from one end to the other, it got really heavy, really cumbersome, and weighted down on the wires a lot as well. So with this split in half, we can simply just open it down the middle. So when we want to open it, which we do either to harvest or on sunny days, we'd like to open it as much as possible on sunny days, let that moisture in there that's built up in there out to decrease disease presence and pressure, and then let some heat also get into the soil so that when we close it up at night, it traps that heat underneath there and runs a little bit warmer. It's also important we want to be able to give this a nice pull so that it's up and off the crops. What we don't want to happen is that this be down touching the crops at night, because if moisture gets on there and it freezes to them, then we're going to have a lot of damage right where that touched to the plants. So that's it for the internal cover. It's a great thing to have in place in northern climates to make sure that you can keep it a little bit warmer around your plants and be able to harvest December through February.